So with our lovely Miss Phoebe, ready cuteness? We're going to do a little bit with some loose leash walk-in. So I would recommend, if again too guys, I don't remember if I mentioned this last week, and if I did, I'm so sorry if it's a little bit of a repeat, is I know that when you fell, you had mentioned that then the leash got away from you and then she kind of took off. I'm not saying this is the option for everybody, and don't feel you have to do anything if you don't feel comfortable. But there are these really awesome belts for leashes and for training where you could, for example, or you could even take a carabiner and clip it to your leash and attach it to your belt. Make sure it's not like your pant loop, because that's not really that durable. If you don't have the greatest mobility or you can get easily off balance, the benefit of sometimes having it attached with a smaller dog is if she were to happen to wander away and you drop the gear by accident, if you made a moment where you let go, the benefit of having the gear attached to you is you could be hands-free. So even if you like stumbled and you let go by mistake, you're still attached, and then she can't romp away if you did happen to get a little bit of a misstep. So sometimes that could be a great safety option. The other benefit though is, let's say for example, you're working with a longer lead. So the long training leash, like I mentioned for Mr. Handsome off in the distance, Mr. E, is you could practice with a longer lead and allow your dog to move a little bit freely ahead of you, and then have them bounce back and forth between the environment and that, and see how that goes. So like right now though, for loose leash walking, I'm making sure to use my hand as sort of like a target for her to hone in on. So my hand is kind of near my hip. So as she's practicing, she's kind of honing in on this lovely, oh, good sneezes, ma'am. So sneezing too, guys, means that your puppy is really excited. They're either jazzed because they think we're about to play or wrestle, or they're excited because they finally got to see you and you just came back. So, you know, poor Mr. Handsome's like, why can't we just play? I know, sir, in a moment. Ethan says it's his turn to come out and play again. So let's say with our gorgeous gal, we're using this leash as a safety net. So if she doesn't have that great recall and we're out and about where she maybe could get distracted or get a little bit overwhelmed. Mr. E says, worst day ever. I want to come play again. So if I lose her, I'm going to regain her attention by going to her little sniffer, take a couple little steps together, and then feed. So the benefit of, again, feeding by the leg, ready, cuteness, is that it helps your puppy start to build up that being by your side is the place to be. If she tends to clothesline you or jump in front of you, what might be happening is she's maybe getting reinforced while in front of you, which is where most of the pups have learned a lot of their skills in the beginning. So if you think about it, a lot of times they're sitting and their other skills or downs happen right in front of you. So the best place to be is in front of your body to acquire those goodies and that paycheck. So I want her to build up value, and also being next to you can be just as cool. Now it's raining again, so I think all the babes are getting a little distracted by the noisy roof. I don't think you can hear it as well. Two, if you're finding that reaching down is awkward, you can also feed the floor. If though there's a lot of debris and you're worried about your puppy grabbing stuff on the floor plus your snack, excuse me, I know I've mentioned at times using a spatula or a ladle, and I know it sounds like you could be a complete and utter crazy person like me and use that as a target. But the benefit of having something that's a little bit lower is you could then at your leisure lower it, get her to lick, 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 and then bring it back up and have it out of range again. So maybe next week I'll sort of show you what I mean by my ladle or spatula trick. But for loose leash walking, you'll see that I want to make sure that while I'm feeding her, it's for while she's next to my side. And this could be left or right, whichever floats your boat. So right now you're seeing we're getting some really beautiful engagement. And it doesn't have to always be where your puppy is, for example, honing in on you the whole time. So if, let's say, for example, I'm just going to break up the snacks a little bit too big. If, let's say, for example, she is pulling past you a lot, then probably what's going on is her comfort range is not really there. Her excitement might be through the roof, or she could be a little overtired. And that's when a lot of young puppies get a little bit crazy in the sense of overly mouthy. They can sometimes end up with a lot of zoomy-like behaviors. And again, this doesn't mean that zoomies or being a wild pupperoo is a bad thing. But if you're going for a very big walk, you may find that your puppy is actually getting both mentally and physically pooped out. And when they get overtired, just like a small toddler, they might get a little bit ramped and a little wild. So that might be where you're not having the greatest behavior happen. So you may find that maybe short and sweet little practice moments for everybody, really beneficial. So I'm going to take her off her leash for a second. So when practicing loose leash walking, I would keep the duration comfortable where she's being successful and so are you. So what that would look like is, do we have engagement? Is she able, Mr. Hansen's being like, I'm looking for a crumb that I lost. He's trying to get it under the fence, poor guy. So if, let's say, we're not getting food taken, we're not being sort of able to check in, we're not able to disengage from the environment itself, then I'd say that setup might be too hard of an environment to create these new behaviors. So if you're getting this type of behavior in your yard, your front yard, your side yard, out in the driveway, or maybe in part of your neighborhood, a few houses, then I'd say awesome. But if you're barely getting it while in the backyard, that's where I would stick to for now and build up her abilities in those bubbles. So right now, I don't care if she's on my left or right. I just want her to think that being by the leg is the right place to be. So sometimes you can also do this type of game where you do some feeding off to the side. She's like, where'd that bad boy go? You could do some, again, distraction. You start meandering, and the moment your puppy comes back into your space and reorients to you, you would mark that behavior, go yes, and feed them for being again near you. So you're creating, again, value in staying in your bubble. Because if, let's say, it's more fun to do other things, poor Ethan says, worst day of my life, why aren't I wrestling again? And they're all getting tired. It's towards the end of the day. But if, let's say, I didn't make it seem cool to be near me, then a lot of times I'm competing against a lot of other things in the world. And those things might have much better value from her perspective than doing loose leash walking. So remember, nobody's dogs. What are you doing, wild man? Ethan's like, I will get the crumbs that are on the other side of the fence. Here, you have some of those bad boys. I'll do a little find it for the handsome guy. So if, let's say, the environment is typically more reinforcing, or the bad dog behavior is what's tending to happen, then your babe might think that's what you love because it's what's getting rehearsed. So even though you might be squealing or saying, no, pull, that's enough, knock it off, your puppy's like hearing woo, 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 or wah, 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 and who knows what you're saying. And then they still are moving forward on their walk, so it must be the right behavior. So remember, whatever is happening is getting sort of progressed into the sense of mastering. So we want to make sure that, again, your puppies are not, again, growing into skills you don't love. So make sure the things that they're working on are behaviors you want them to master. So otherwise, if they're not doing what you'd rather, I'd either prevent the rehearsal or redirect them to the thing you'd rather have them do in the first place. But remember, a lot of times the environment is going to be the thing that either helps you or hinders you while learning. So that is something that we can typically tend to control depending on where we go. Nice job, cuteness. So, but I'm going to give this lovely lady a little breather. She did such a good job with those recalls, her loose leash walking, and the beginning stages of some of that gotcha for grabbing for equipment. So I would say, take a peek, see over the old information, some of the resources I sent along previously, and then always feel free to review your puppy's videos, but then the other classmates, because a lot of times behaviors that one is practicing, another one is having struggles with, and they can rotate through those different skills together. So because maybe one day one puppy is able to offer certain skills and the next day another puppy isn't, and it's helpful to kind of view everybody's gear, practice and information and skill sets. So, but Miss P did a very nice job. We'll do another little find it, and we'll give her a little breather. She's like, where the heck did that bad boy go? Maybe we'll do one that she can see a little bit better. Ready? Phoebe, find it. There we go. Good job, cuteness. But really great job for all the beauties today at school.